All right, welcome back everybody for our afternoon sessions. Were there any questions about this morning? I just want any questions that might be lingering this morning to be answered before we move on to some more stuff, because we're going to be covering some really important information this afternoon, and I don't want any questions to go unanswered. So I'll give you a moment to think if you had any questions that you would like to ask first. That's okay if you don't, or if questions come up later on, that's all right. We'll answer them as they come. All right, this afternoon we are going to kick off the afternoon with talking about timekeeping and what we do for our timekeeping and our timesheets and all that fun stuff. So it is a little heavy. There's a lot of information to cover. Erin will be taking this for us. She is our timesheet timekeeping guru for Recovery Corps. So if you have questions, please feel free to ask them as we're going through this. Otherwise, I am going to turn it on over to Erin and she will lead the way in timekeeping.
Thanks, Christina. I think if you do have a question, raise your hand maybe, but try and save the questions for the end if they can wait, because we do want to get through the whole presentation and there is a lot of information. So I would encourage you to write them down or just put them in the chat and we'll come back to those later. So timekeeping. If I can, there we go. So all timekeeping, your timesheets, is completed in AmeriCorps. Christina is going to be setting up your accounts for that. Timesheets have to be completed each week, and I check them. Your supervisor has to approve them then after you submit them, and I check them each week.
Erin, your screen is not sharing anymore if you mean to be sharing your screen.
I do.
Okay.
How about now?
You are. Yep, there you go.
Okay.
Looks good.
Well, I don't know what happened there, but there we go. And then excessively late or continually late timesheets will not be tolerated. This is really important for the program that timesheets get turned in on time, because Serve Wisconsin checks in on us and make sure they're up to date, they're being completed, there's not any issues. And so we need to complete these in a timely manner to make sure the program can keep running. Okay, so, and I'm going to have everyone hold off, try and just pay attention to the presentation right now. You don't have any of your AmeriCorps information right now anyways, so you can find all this information later. I've included screenshots, so just try and stay present, but this can be found on page 9 of your handbook, the website information for AmeriCorps. So this is the page that you go to do your timesheets. This is what the login page looks like. You need to, up in the top right corner there, you need to log into your account, select the program year. Then you're going to scroll down and find the Marshfield Clinic Health System Recovery Corps and click on website. Then it brings you to the login page, and your login information is your last name and the first initial of your first name, and your first password will be password. But then you need to go reset that for security reasons, obviously. So this is what it's going to look like when you log in. You're going to click where it says timesheet in purple in the left corner there below where it says welcome Nicole. And this was a screenshot taken back in early August. So obviously this is not correct for you guys. Your next timesheet is not due August 2nd. So timesheets, the time recorded in them is set up Monday through Sunday of each week, and they have to be submitted the following Wednesday by 8 a.m. So I would say get in the habit of just submitting them on Tuesday unless you work super early Wednesday mornings, which I don't think many people do. And then we also need to document any teleservice and submit at this time. And we will be getting into teleservice later in the presentation. Then supervisors must approve or reject the timesheet by Friday at 8 a.m., looking over the activities that were put in the timesheet, making sure that seems correct with what their member did. So an example for time, if Bob is recording his time for the week of September 18th through 24th, Bob must submit his completed timesheet for that week by Wednesday, September 27th at 8 a.m., and Bob's supervisor must approve or reject his timesheet by Friday, September 29th. So, completing a timesheet, there are a few different categories that your hours can go under, but there's actually, we'll get into this later, but for the most part, these are the three categories. Service, so that's any activity you do at your host site with your target population, anything that supports your service. Meeting with a client, client notes, research, meetings, any non-required trainings by the AmeriCorps program. And then training is any training that is required by the MCHS AmeriCorps program. So like your CCAR training, CDC training, monthly team meetings, things like that. But any training or webinar that you want to take to learn more information, to be a better coach, that is considered service. The training is only required trainings. And then fundraising is maybe your host site is having an event to fundraise for their new building or something, it's a fundraising event. However, this must be pre-approved by MCHS AmeriCorps staff before it is put in your timesheet.
There is one question in the chat that we can answer right away. Michael asked if there's set amount of hours we must provide service, or is that discussed with site management? Most of your hours will fall into service because that encapsulates most of what you do and why you're a part of AmeriCorps. That it's actually the opposite, that there's certain limits on training that can only be 20%. Is that or 10? I'm 20%, right, Christina?
Yep.
Okay.
You nailed it.
20. Okay. Thanks. I second guessed myself there a second. 20% can only go to training. But if you're, full-time member, you shouldn't really be close to hitting that. But if you're concerned, just let us know.
Thanks, Megan.
You're welcome.
So then we get into a little bit of a confusing area, but I promise we'll go into all of this in more detail. Teleservice. So teleservice is any work that is not done at your host site using technology. So this is new this year. So for some of our returners, you're like, what are we talking about? We didn't do this last year. This is actually a national requirement to receive the grant to keep the program running. Because this is federal dollars, we need to show what we're doing with it. It's that, that those funds are not being wasted, anything like that. So teleservice needs to be documented, and there's different ways to document that: screenshots, certificates of completion, stuff like that. And then we do have a alternative if your teleservice would violate like patient privacy or HIPAA concerns whatsoever. And so we'll get into showing you where you're going to upload your teleservice document into Encore as well. And actually, prior to COVID, teleservice was never an option. So this is kind of how we're meeting in the middle with the federal and state program and requirements to make sure that this is a semi-flexible option. Okay, so here is an example timesheet. You can see that there's the blue at the top is training, and there's the teleservice half, the training half, and then the service, teleservice, and service. So it's a little confusing, but we'll get into it later, like I mentioned. But you can see the days of the week there, And then that's where you're going to be putting your documentation, and your notes is in that larger box, and then the little white boxes under each category is where you put your hours. So here's some example activities, and we're going to get into what they are and why. So attending virtual orientation with MCHS program staff during your first week, what you're doing right now, that would be considered training because it is required training. Attending orientation in person with your host site at the host site, that is service. Completing virtual training that is requested by your host site from home, not required training, and you're doing it not at your host site with technology. That is teleservice. And that's an instance where you would need to provide certificate of completion, a screenshot, notes you took, the training invite, some sort of proof like that. Let's say you had an event with your organization, you know, it's an in-person at a park, that is service. No need to provide any documentation with that besides your timesheet. But let's say if you met with a client via Zoom, not at your host site, you were doing it from your local library or something, that is teleservice, and that would violate patient privacy if you were to take a screenshot of the Zoom screen with the person's face and their name and whatnot. So you would need to fill out the HIPAA section of the teleservice document. And then last example is you completed your required CDC training from home. That is required trainings, that's training, but because you are not at your host site, you are doing it from home, that is a teleservice training. And again, you would need to provide documentation like a screenshot or something.
And just if in case you guys are asking why orientation doesn't need to be documented as teleservice, because I know many of you are at home right now, it's just an exception to the rule because this is the first time it is being rolled out and our commission gave us permission. So that's literally the only reason. Otherwise, we would have asked you to, what I would do in your situation if you were asked to document this is taking a screenshot of your calendar that has this entire training day in it to show that you had a meeting from 8:30 to 4. And yes, Erica, much more complicated this year.
Yes.
Definitely.
And I'm going to actually drag this onto my screen. I couldn't fit it in the presentation, but I made a little flow chart for you guys. Hopefully this will be helpful. I can send it to everyone. I can ask Sophie to put it on the map, but it will help you for the most part determine how you should be documenting your hours. So if the first question separating it into if it's at your host site or not, then you're getting into if it was a training or not using technology, and it'll help you work your way through that. So then at the bottom, you can see those different categories. And if you're able to follow those arrows down, you'll be able to hopefully figure out how you need to categorize your time. Okay, so then with your timesheet, that larger box, the narrative for each day is the description portion, and that's going to be where you describe what you did for that day. You have to document any sick days, vacation days, other time off during your set work week that you agreed upon with your host site supervisor. 1 wellness hour must be recorded each day. We talked about those 5 wellness hours per week. Enter something for every day. Don't leave anything blank as long as it's during the Monday through Friday work week that you've set up with your supervisor. Going off of that, if it's a day you're not serving, put not scheduled.
Where do you put the wellness hour?
Yep, so the wellness hour is service. Excellent question.
Yeah.
And just set a schedule for completing your timesheets so that you don't forget. You can get them done every week on time. You remain in good standing, all of that good stuff. And you want to also make sure that your supervisor is approving those. You'll be able to see in Encore if there's any outstanding ones. You may need to remind your supervisor at, hey, were there any errors or things you had questions about? And we will notify the supervisors also if we can see if they haven't approved something that you've submitted. So in this description, we want to be capturing everything correctly. We do not want to use client names, acronyms. It should be things that most people can understand. Don't use words like front desk, cleaning, administrative. That's not stuff you're supposed to be doing really. And it should be words that reinforce your work, like, or your host site, like coaching and recovery, using, like I said, no acronyms, clear descriptions. So that if someone, under resources on the map. Thank you, Megan. So if someone was reading it, they would have a good idea of what you did that day. So the wellness hours, like I mentioned, are service, and they must support your individual wellness plan that you will create. And 1 hour each day should be documented. Some good examples are things like meditation, a wellness walk, exercise, AA or NA meetings, journaling, things like that. Hours should not be things like nail appointments, naps, haircut, video games, dinner with friends, that sort of stuff. While they may be relaxing, they need to support your wellness plan.
Christina, there's a question in the chat, and maybe Erin, you have a preference too between both of you. Can you answer? Erica asked, can we just put wellness? And I have a inkling, but I want you guys to give your input first.
Yeah, absolutely. So Erin is the one that really views the timesheets more so than I do now. But if you do put in wellness hour, that's okay, because you're not exactly saying, hey, I went and took a nap, which is obviously one of the terms we don't want you to use. But as long as we see that you have documentation of took 1 hour of wellness today, that's okay.
Thanks, Christina. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So putting wellness hour is fine. You don't need, if you were journaling, drawing, you don't need to tell me what you were journaling about, what you drew. It can be pretty general. So, yep. So getting into the documenting of teleservice. So when you're not at your host site and using technology, like we talked about, that's teleservice. We need to take documentation of that to essentially, if any, prove to the federal and state that work was being done under these hours. So you need to take screenshots of your computer or notes. Maybe you were working on a newsletter, social media post, a document. You could take save the meeting invite, a screenshot of that, a certificate from a training. Those are all great ways to document. I can show you next. This is where you're going to put those screenshots, is into this teleservice activity tracker. And so you have each day, and you can put multiple images in that, and you will submit that one document into Encore. You can only submit one document each week, so you can only fill out this one. And right now, I am going to show you how to take a screenshot. This is on a PC computer. So say you were researching like recovery resources for a client, and you're doing some research, you're at home using your computer. So if I can get this, I'll have to probably exit the presentation. But down here in the little windows, if you click on that, if you click snip Oh, come on. It'll pop up with your snipping tool. I'm going to drag it onto this screen. This will pop up and you do new snip, you click that, and it will gray out your screen. You can see this little plus cursor and you just drag it over your screen, what you want to capture in that red box. Then when you release the button, it will come up. You're going to press File, Save As, and then you can select what you want to name it, where you want to put it.
And some of you may know other
Yes.
tricks of the trade to do it, and that's fine to do that way. Christian also put a little tip in there how to also do a snippet.
Yes, thank you. That's how I do it, but I can never remember the quick keyboard shortcuts. So those of you that are like those things are a little more savvy that you can do them other ways as well. So this we had mentioned earlier, if taking a screenshot of what you're doing would violate HIPAA, if it would be, your client's name, picture of them, anything like that. This is part 2 of the activity tracker, and this is where you would document that. So say you were on a Zoom call with a client, you just put the date, Zoom call with client. You don't put their name, their initials, anything like that, and then just put the number of hours. So then uploading the teleservice activity tracker, you're going to save that as a PDF. It comes as a Word document and you're going to want to save as a PDF. You log into AmeriCorps again, click the View Edit Profile in the top right corner, and then scroll down to where you see Member Documentation. I'll show you that on the next slide.
Erin, before we go to the next slide, are you also going to be talking about how the supervisor signs the document before they upload?
I had not had that in here.
Okay. So if you want, I can share quick just because there is some nuances that they'll have to do with the tracker. Sorry, not to interrupt.
No, that's fine. I just
okay.
Did not.
Hang on, I have like 5 million things open, but I will get there. Okay. I'm here. So, and what's cool is on the service tracker where you guys will be uploading your screenshots, there's directions on there. So again, if you're lost, just pull up the form and follow the directions. I will share my screen. So like Erin went over, this is where you'll be documenting everything. Your site supervisor does not need to sign the document unless there is HIPAA involved, in which case they will, because then they're vouching for you saying, even though they can't prove that they did this, I am vouching that yes, they did this Zoom call or whatever it is. And supervisors will be talking about this more too, but members, you're gonna fill this out, right? And then let's follow along together. So, make sure, everything's captured accurately. The supervisor will review and sign or ask for edits. So you are not signing first, the supervisor is. So once you feel like this is all ready to go and you have some HIPAA involved and you need a signature, you're going to stop, don't sign anything, and prepare it for the supervisor to sign. How to do that? You want to save this document as a PDF. So save as. Okay, and I'm going to save it as a PDF. I'm going to click save. And then you're going to send that to your supervisor. And then what the supervisor is now able to do When I go back in and grab this as a PDF. Will now be able to sign this without having to print it off and upload it. So that's why I'm walking through this, so you guys don't have to be in person to sign this document. So how you would fill and sign is click fill and sign, sign yourself, Megan. I'm gonna sign it right there. I'm gonna fill out the rest of the document. And then they're going to send it back to you. You're going to do the same thing, and then it'll be ready to be uploaded. So is this going to be messy for a little bit? We all recognize this. It is going to be a learning process, and Erin will definitely make sure if you're on track or if you need to document more or less or whatever, she'll go through that even more. But I just wanted to show you that just really pay attention to these instructions towards the bottom here, because they're important, so you don't have to be there in person. If you're in person and you decide to print it out, sign it, and upload it, that works too, but we just wanted to try to make it as easy as possible so that you don't have to do that.
Then we have one question, actually a couple questions in the chat that I feel we should probably address right now. Jessica said, no, I already answered Jessica, sorry. Jessica B said, do they need to take a screenshot of everything if they are working remote?
So for the chunk, or Erin, do you want to answer it? Sorry,
you can go ahead if you want to continue.
Okay. So we just have to be confident enough that if we were to get audited by the IOG, we can prove that yes, they spent X amount of time doing this. So for example, if you're working on a brochure and it took you 4 hours to make that brochure and you just upload the final brochure, that's completely fine. Another caveat, Erin, I don't know if you went over this yet or not, is if you're just answering emails from home, you don't have to document that. So that's a really nice one too. So like Erin's going to talk about some strategies. Like if you know that your emails are piling up and you're going to be working from home tomorrow, maybe if they can be saved, save those emails for tomorrow so you don't have to do so much documentation of teleservice. So just kind of be like smart about what you're doing, where and when.
Yep, and I have that in that little flow chart that says, is this emailing? Then no teleservice. That's just service. So like Megan said, if you can be strategic, that's great. Maybe you're out in the community meeting with a client, and that means taking handwritten notes instead of taking them on your computer. And then if you're going back to your host site, that's when you could put them on your computer. A little more tedious. I mean, that's up to you. Maybe you'd rather just do the teleservice stuff, but then you do have to fill out the part 2 of the tracker. So like Megan said, being a little more strategic.
Yep, thank you. And then Shirley said, where is this? And I'm not sure what your question was. Like, where is the
teleservice document?
Yeah, the tracker. What?
The tracker is on the map under resources.
Resources, policies. Yep. Sorry, policies and procedures, and then teleservice.
Okay. I'm thinking that's what Shirley meant. And then another question is, what's the difference between the supervisor name and signature, the font? So the signature itself, and jump in if I'm saying it wrong, is basically the signature itself that you pull out of your Adobe sign. It's the signature you've set up in there. And then just typing your name as the supervisor is different. Yep. And then what about a speaking engagement that is off-site?
So again, if you're not using technology, it's not teleservice. So if you're out in the community doing stuff, meeting with clients, that's not teleservice. It's just if technology is involved. Different places trying to collect. So Jamie, that's just service.
Good question, guys. Thank you.
Email the tracker to our supervisor if you need them to sign. Yes, that would be easiest. Like Megan had said that you don't have to print it off and give it to them and, take a picture, scan it in.
So that would
I'm
be
sorry,
HIPAA. Correct. So what you would do is just say that you engaged in conversation via text with the client, and then you would mark an estimated amount of time for that. And then your supervisor would sign that HIPAA document.
Good questions.
But
You're welcome.
phone and would be technology, right?
Correct, unless it occurred at your host site, in which case it's not teleservice.
Oh.
It's just serving at your
Yeah.
host site. Same with text, same with Zoom calls. Like if you're at your host site, this is just to prove that when you're not, around other people, that we can prove that you're actually serving and using these dollars effectively for our commission. From remotely, that would be service. I guess I don't know what's all involved with that. I would need more information about getting a program up and running.
So Megan, for our area, this is brand new. So that's what I
Mhm.
mean by this. We're not a second year, nothing like that. So
Right.
the beginning is very much getting things up and running. It's not like he's going to start day one and he's going to have a client already. So
Sure.
that's the part I'm looking at.
So again, it
is-
depends on what they're doing. So if they're getting up and running by watching a webinar on how to get a program up and running, that's still teleservice. If they are writing notes of things that are coming in their head, that is not teleservice. You're not using technology. If they get on the phone with you and talk about ideas on how to get that up and running, that's teleservice because they're using technology. Does that make sense? It's all about how you're doing it, not what you're doing.
Correct. I guess my question
Okay.
is if that's all remotely, you can't take a screenshot of a phone call. I mean, that's the part where I'm like, well, how much this has to be screenshotted if you're looking
So
at
if
an
it's
audit?
a phone call, I would recommend putting it in your calendar so you can take a snip of that.
Okay, so just make sure your calendar is really good and up to date, and then you can take a screenshot of that at the end of the day.
Yep, and notes are always a really great thing too. I am highly recommending that people take notes on their laptop so that they can prove that work was done.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
I'll drop the flow chart in the chat at the end of this presentation, and hopefully that will help you guys work through that, because it is a step-by-step yes or no, and it'll direct you to what
Mhm.
those activities should be.
Erin, there's quite a few questions in the chat, but I think I'm gonna
Mhm.
let you continue so that we can get through some things, and we'll save these for the end.
Okay, that sounds good. So uploading it, this is if you select your profile in Encore, then you're going to scroll down and teleservice documentation, and you'll choose the file for the given week. So for this week, it would be that top week. Select the file. I was supposed to have red boxes on here, but they're not appearing. So you would select your file and then click submit when you are done. So to the disciplinary action, I'm going to be reviewing timesheets weekly. I will send you an email if you're missing a timesheet, it's late, it needs revisions, anything like that. And multiple offenses may result in the suspension of a member. And just remember that the timesheet is proving that you're doing work, and that's giving you your living stipend.
And just to let you know, when you're suspended, that means you cannot count any hours and you will not be able to serve during that time. A suspension is likely 3 days, could be longer, but for those 3 days, you can't count any service.
We're still using Encore to record our
Yes.
timesheet?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, ladies.
And so is this still true, Christina, for this week? Track all your hours on paper? Okay.
Yep,
So.
you all have been entered into the Encore system, members and supervisors. All of you are in Encore, but continue to track your time, and then you can put it in at the end of the week when you feel comfortable.
Yep. Sorry, this activity thing got a little formatting weird, and then just a reminder that your hours should be documented in 15 minutes or quarter hour amounts. So 0.25 is 15 minutes, 30 minutes is 0.5, 45 minutes is 0.75, and an hour is obviously 1. Reminders, timesheets are to be completed each week by Wednesday at 8 a.m. Only one teleservice activity tracker can be uploaded each week, and one wellness hour must be documented each day. And then I have a little homework. I'm not going to be checking if you complete this, but please do familiarize yourself with the map like you already have been, and specifically the timesheet area of the resources. So like Megan said, resources, policies, and then the timekeeping, the and teleservice stuff is all under there. And I would, if you're not familiar with how to take a screenshot, I would encourage you to practice, try that out, and try putting it in the teleservice document. You don't have to save it, you can just get it in there. Maybe try saving it as a PDF test, something like that, if you're not comfortable or you've never done it before. And please email me if you have any questions, you can't figure out how to complete one of these homework tasks, anything like that. And like Christina mentioned, this is a lot and this is new for us as well. Obviously, we would prefer we didn't have to do all the teleservice tracking and all that, but in order for us to run the program with that option of partial teleservice, making it flexible for people, we have to. So yeah, I think I'm going to drop the Word document flow chart in the chat, and then we can answer some questions.
Okay, I was trying to answer them as you went. Alex, I feel like I responded to you incorrectly. So if you're texting with a client, it's teleservice, not just service. So it'd be, you'll see the categories, but there's 2 categories, service, training. So you're gonna go into the service category, then underneath there, you just have regular service or teleservice. Because you are texting, it would be teleservice. If you are not at your host site, if you're at your host site, none of this matters. Hopefully that makes sense. So this teleservice only occurs if you're off site using technology. If you are on site, you would, then what you have is correct. You would just say, yep, I was serving, if you were in your office or whatever.
Maybe I will share my screen again. I am struggling to get the Word document in the chat. Megan or Christina, do you know why? Or Emily, do you know why that would be?
Sorry, I was reading. Can you say that again?
It's not letting me upload a document into the chat.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's okay. We can email it out.
yeah.
I'll email it out, but yeah, I can. It's hard because it's
That's
very
right. It
small.
won't let me either, Erin. I think it's
Okay.
because it's external meeting.
I think so. Yeah.
I also put the link for Encore in the chat. It's like Erin said, it is also in your handbook. Again, I would definitely put that in your favorites, bookmark it, because it's not a searchable website.
What's your question?
Okay, and then I'll go back to Michael and James. Okay, go ahead, Barb.
You're not off mute, my dear.
So if I drive to Stanley or something for, you know, a meeting, so is the drive time included? For the
No,
time you leave your house?
Commute has never been included in service because it's similar to any other like role or job you would have where, you know, you have to be there 8 o'clock or whenever you're scheduled for. Does that make sense? And then
What about if you meet a client?
I'm sorry, Shirley, can you hold on a second? If, and I just want to clarify too, the whole compensation part. So that is completely up to your host site. So that's not like everyone gets that. that's something that you and your host have to work out. I understand what you're
Okay.
saying now, Barb. If it's with a client,
mean-
that is service. So,
Oh,
because you're not like reporting to your job for 8 AM, if that makes sense.
right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then, for those of us that have been here, will we use the same password or will we make a new one in Encore?
If you have been here and are returning, you will not make a new password. It will be your same login information.
Thank you.
Good question. Good question.
Shirley, you were saying something?
No, I was just trying to help our
Oh.
family go to clients' houses.
Okay. Thank you. Apologize for that.
I think Jamie had her hand up.
When you click the link and then you submit 23, 24 year, hit submit, and then you scroll down to where it says, AmeriCorps recovery coach. You don't click website. If you click website, it takes you to where the website we were on yesterday. You click AmeriCorps member, and that'll take you to Encore.
Sorry, Jamie. Thank
That's
you.
okay. I
said
was
the
like
wrong
so
thing.
confused. I'm like, oh no. But I found it.
Thanks, Jamie.
I think
Alex.
Alex had her hand. Okay.
So is the only time that we need to document like screenshots and notes and things like that during teleservice? Or do we need to do that
Correct.
during our regular service as well?
Nope, just teleservice.
Just teleservice. Just when
Okay.
you're not at your host site and you're using technology.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Jamie?
Okay, so in the chat, I'm seeing Brock mentioned we're going to have a lot of documents because of text and stuff. And then Megan said, luckily this falls under HIPAA, so you won't have to document. So I feel like I'm confused.
Yeah. Let me clarify. So remember, there's two parts to the tracker. There's the first part, which is teleservice that's not HIPAA, in which case you need to include screenshots or notes or a brochure or something like that. The second part of the document is around HIPAA. So you still need to say, yes, I text with a client on Monday, 9/11 for 1 hour. But there's no screenshot attached to that. So it should be a lot simpler. It should just state that you had a Zoom meeting with a client off-site, or you texted with your client off-site, or had a call there, whatever it is. So yes, you still have to document, but it's not to the extent of if you were teleserving and you were doing your CDC train, and in which case I would screenshot my certificate, or something like that. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay. I see a thumb up. That's good.
Yeah. By document, I think Megan just meant not provide like a image documentation.
Yes. And a lot of your stuff will be HIPAA just by way of our program. So.
And if you think about it, all you're having to do extra is if it's a HIPAA related thing, like Megan said, by way of the program, texting with a client, Zoom meeting with a client, this date, how many hours, and then at the end of the week, that's one email to your supervisor. They sign it, send it back, and upload it. It's, when you think about it in that way, if you just keep those notes written down, put them in put them in there, or put them in as you go and save it as a Word document, that's just one task at the end of your week to make sure you've correctly documented that.
I'm going to share my screen again because I think that this might help.
And then as you're pulling that up, I just want to say, make sure when you're logging in as a supervisor or a member that you're clicking the correct program, because on the Encore page, there's two Marshfield Clinic programs. There's Recovery Corps and Community Corps. So make sure that you're looking at that, because a lot of times when you're having problems getting in, you're not clicking the right program. You have to click Recovery Corps, MCHS Recovery Corps, not MCHS Community Corps.
Thanks, Christina. Okay, so I want to take us through kind of an example, just to see if maybe this would help a little bit. So as a reminder, you're gonna want to fill this out every single week, okay? And another reminder, you can only upload this one document to the file once a week. So you're gonna want everything on this document that you need. So let's just go through this a little bit to kind of show you what this could look like. I'm just gonna make updates here, but let's say Monday, you are on site the entire day. There's nothing you need to do as a teleservice activity tracker for that. You would do that on your normal timesheet like returners have been doing. For those that are new, what you do is you'll capture and say, I don't know, met with my supervisor, did some CDC training, had a couple of client appointments, documented in red cap, whatever you did that day, right? A summary. Let's say Tuesday you're on site too. Nothing you have to do. Wednesday, let's say you are at home completing CDC training. And let's say you, I don't know, you had your monthly recovery corps meeting. And then maybe you also did some research on smart recovery. These are all going to be screenshots for you. So CDC, what I would do is if I had a certificate right here, I would upload a certificate of completion for that training that I did that day. So I'm just going to put that in here. If I had my certificate, I put it in there, but I don't right now. So monthly meeting, I am going to upload a screenshot of calendar invite. If you have other information on your calendar, make sure to open up the appointment and then take a screenshot so you're only showing the appointment that you want. Research smart recovery, I'm going to upload my notes that I learned all about smart recovery. And let's say that took 5 hours, okay? So on your other timesheet, on your actual timesheet, you're going to put under teleservice 5 hours, okay? Now here's where it gets a little tricky. Should I just put 5 hours under service and then teleservice? What do you guys think? The answer would be no, because you have to look at your activities. So CDC train, is that service or is that training? It's service because it's required, okay?
No, it's
Monthly
training because
recovery
it's required.
What?
Training because it's required.
Sorry, training because it's required, gosh. Monthly recovery corps meeting, training or service? Training because it's required. Yep, you got it. You got it. Research on smart recovery. That's going to be your service, okay? And there's some cheat sheets on the map to kind of help you understand if it should be service or training, because that's probably going to be the hardest part of all this, is just trying to figure out what category it goes into. But we have examples for you all so that we can help you kind of try to figure that out. Okay, let's say all of this took 5 hours and you still had a couple other things to do that day, and they were meeting with clients and documenting in red cap. We obviously cannot show proof of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here and I'm going to put whatever the date was, and I'm going to put documentation in red cap. That took 2 hours. And then let's say I also did 2 meetings with clients via Zoom. 2. So that will be your 8-hour workday for that teleservice. And let's just say you're on site the other 2 days, or maybe you're on site for most of the day and you just went home and had 1 webinar. then you put that there. That would be a screenshot of the calendar invite. Does that make sense? I know it's complicated, but just know that this recording is out there for you. We're here to help you. But really just take it piece by piece. Am I using technology? Am I not? Am I at my host site? Am I not? Is this confidential or not? And really use that flow chart that Erin made for all of you, because it's really going to help you.
Like Megan said, we are here to help. This is new for all of us, new for you guys. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me, you can reach out to any of us. Just let us know if you need clarification. We'll be, checking the timesheets, like we do every week, but especially well in the beginning, providing over amounts of feedback for you to hopefully make this a little easier as we all get used to this process. Sorry, Jamie.
It was funny. I just watched it last night and I just feel like even though the elevator's working, I just want to take the steps.
I love that. I love it, Jamie.
So, yes, we can, but just know that this is not usually the norm if we walk through how to document this in Encore, because most of you are technically teleserving, but we don't have to provide documentation for it. Our commission gave us special permission not to. So, Erin, would you want to walk through how to document?
Yes. So to clarify, no one needs to do teleservice for orientation, correct?
No one needs to provide documentation.
Documentation. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I see someone raise their hand, but I don't know where it went. Let's see.
Yes. Okay. I'm on the AmeriCorps report site, and it's nowhere on here for me to sign in at all.
Okay.
So, Christina, have people received their sign-ins yet?
That just now. So you're signing here. Can I share my screen real quick, Erin? And I will
go for it.
Let me log out and log back in. Come on. All right. So I am going to share. So when you go into Encore, this is what it will look like when you first click on that link. You're going to click submit, okay? Then you're going to go about halfway down the page and click our program. Our program is, like I said, about halfway down the page, and you're going to click the respective spot. So I would be the program director, so that's how I'm logging in. All our host site supervisors are site supervisors, and all the members, you'll click AmeriCorps member. So you'll click on whichever one you are, and of course, it gives me the warning. It should come right to this page. You're going to put your username in, your password, which all new members, all new supervisors, last name, first initial of your first name, and your password is password right now, all lowercase. It's going to prompt you to change it once you're in there. So put your username in, your password in, and then it's going to log you right in. Now, my view is going to be different than yours, but it logs you in. Does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you
Awesome.
very much.
Yeah, just takes practice. Trust me. I was in the same boat as you when I first started. It just takes practice.
Even I still try and log into the community core one every once in a while, because you just scroll down, you're looking for the Marshfield logo and you're clicking on it and like, why won't it let me in? Then you realize you're trying to log into the other program. So
Yep.
It happens.
I think Nicole has her hand up too.
I guess for me, I'm just curious, do I have the same one I had before, or am I getting a new one?
You're getting a new one.
Okay, just checking. Thank you.
Yep. So you should be in there. Let me just double check.
Sorry, did someone answer Alex's question in the chat?
I did not, no.
What are we considering orientation, service or teleservice? I think we're considering it teleservice and we're just not requiring you to document for it.
So
Just
if you're
so
at home, it's teleservice. If you're at your host site, it would be teleservice training, TT, because it's training, because it's required. If you're at your host site, it would be training.
no teleservice if you're at your host site, if you're not, what she said, teleservice training. Do not, but you don't need a document.
I am officially in. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, I know there's going to be a lot more questions about this. It's okay. We can also save some time at our Red Cat meetings to go through this, I think, Christina. You know, and continue to have maybe group calls about this, just for efficiency. If you have questions, email them to us. If we're getting a lot of the same question, we might just send out an email to the answer. So just watch your emails, but also use the map because there's going to be really great resources on there, and go back and watch this recording as well, because a lot of the answers to your questions will likely be in this recording.